This is a movie review. It's the Winslow Boy, directed, and the screenplay writer, the director and the screenplay writer are one David Mamet. It's based on a play by Terence Rattigan that he created in 1946. The cast: Nigel Hawthorne plays Arthur Winslow, Jeremy Northam plays Sir Robert Norton, Rebecca Pidgeon is Catherine Winslow, Gemma Jones plays Grace Winslow, Guy Edwards is Ronnie Winslow, Sarah Flint is Violet, and Matthew Pidgeon plays Dickie Winslow. Okay. Comment by reviewer Dennis Forts. A film with both family and a lawyer portrayed in such a genuine and likeable way. This is an old-fashioned story about personal freedom, government intransigence, political bureaucracy and justice. It's adapted from Rattigan's screenplay. It's about family loyalty, set in 1910 in England. It's distinguished by Manet's sharply scripted dialogue and a cast that is just outstanding. The Edwardian story is chock full of sensibility and rife with a tautness that keeps you fully tuned into its dramatics. The real trial depicted in this film is about a 13-year-old English naval student expelled from the Osborne Naval Academy because he stole a 5-shilling postal order. It was a big deal in the London headlines at that time and was called the trial of the century in England, with the public taking sides with the wrongly accused youngster. The film version takes the liberties with the real story. It begins in 1912 on a rainy London day in the immaculate sitting room in the capacious early century house of the Winslows, when the young son brings home bad news from his school. We're introduced to the family patriarch Arthur, his dignified wife Grace, played by Gemma Jones, the unsuccessful brother Dickie, the liberated cigarette-smoking suffragette Catherine, played by Rebecca Pidgeon, who was in fact Mamet's wife at the time, and her army officer fiance John. Catherine discovers her 14-year-old brother Ronnie standing in the garden, soaking wet and frightened. He shows her the letter of his expulsion from the school, begging her not to tell his banker father, who so much wanted him to attend that prestigious school. But when the father finds out about his dismissal, he asks only one thing of his son: tell me the truth. Did you do it? And when he professes his innocence, the entire family backs him, and they decide to take this seemingly trivial matter to court and to Parliament. This will prove to be a great burden on the father, both economically and physically. It will also strain the relationship of Catherine and John. Dickie will have to leave college for a job at the bank, and it will cause Grace to cut back on her social obligations. Sir Robert Norton, played by Northam, the country's top attorney, is asked by the family to defend the boy and save the Winslow's name from disgrace. He turns out to be a better and more feeling lawyer from what Catherine expected of him, which adds even more weight to the already intriguing story. He's also a great actor, able to catch the proper Edwardian sophistication required of a gifted and contentious lawyer of that period. his motives for taking the case had been suspect, but when he secretly turns down a highly honoured post to continue with the case, even though those in the know about such things, they think he doesn't have much chance of winning, Catherine's convinced that she has found a new love in her life. The Winslow boy answers both the legal and moral questions it asked about the case. Its legal theme, let justice be done, really equates in this particular case to doing the right thing legally, which is acquitting the youngster of the charges. So as Arthur states, right be done, let right be done, while on the moral question, the hurt father, whose pride has been injured, pursues the suit to get vindication for his family's name, even though he realises that Ronnie is happy in his new school and what he is doing to his family almost borders on irresponsibility on his part. There's such a grace and forthrightness in the father's demeanour that he stands out as a sympathetic and lovable giant of a person. Hawthorne was simply brilliant in this role, conveying an urbane wit and a strong backbone for taking on the fight for a cause he believes in with all his heart. This is just a wonderful and almost flawless film. The only flaw, the likeable family seemed so smug with their upper class status. Mannix does a masterful job directing someone else's words to his fullest potential. On paper, the outline for this story and its denouncement do not suggest how great a work this film turned out to be. Even its old-fashioned story is more modern than it first appears to be. You might have to wait a long time before you find a film with both a family and a lawyer portrayed in such a genuine and likeable way. A very, very positive review, given an A grade. Particularly impressive scene a little later on when the attorney that Mr. Winslow Arthur appoints or wants to appoint to defend his son, the attorney is played by Jeremy Northam. There's a scene where he cross-examines, so to speak, the young boy, Ronnie, and it's very good, really, because one gets the drift that he's basically exposing how easy it is to trip this boy up into admitting that he stole the postal order, when in fact he hadn't. And at the end of it, the attorney then announces to Mr. Winslow that he will defend the boy. Mamet illustrates this perfectly. We see this commitment on the of the family to sacrifice themselves for the benefit of the honour of their father, giving up expectations, giving up plans for the future to get behind their father in his determination to rid his family and his young son of the stigma. It's all rather sort of English and admirable. Really contrast vividly with how quickly people, even within families, in the current mood, are willing to ditch everything, ditch their own eyes, as in the case of evidence, for example, of the dangers of the vaccine, unwilling to come out and say anything, even though they are fully aware of what is wrong. Now, I know there's obviously people who have personal sacrifice in the forefront of their mind, but it just illustrates how the powerful, those rotten pigs, maintain their power because of the silence of those sheep. And there ain't enough dogs to go around. Now, I like using this analogy because it makes things easy for people to understand. But us dogs have got to stand out and stand up, because it's awfully difficult to get those sheep to support. This period piece is wonderfully portrayed and unmistakably British, but it also illustrates that these individuals, there seems to be a litany of conflict of interest with people being members of Parliament and being active barristers, for example, and being friends of the family, but at the same time working for law firms. So it's interesting how the characters all seem very close. They all know each other's business, or are working out what somebody else may have thought or said. There's a very appropriate scene at the end after the Winslows have successfully won the case. It involves the boy's sister Catherine and the barrister Sir Robert, and they are at opposite ends of the political scale, and she is striving for women's rights, and he of course is a very, very conservative, with a big C and a small c, and they say their goodbyes and they exchange to each other how neither of them really neither of them has any real insight as to what both men and women are capable of, and it captures the sort of strengths of both, and it typifies, I suppose, that period in history. But it's all done in a very civil manner. It's an interesting movie, really, in many ways, because it's so normal. It's British normal for that period. It's simple and effective, and the acting is clean and to the point, and captures the character of all. The barrister says, in parting, "One day I hope I will see you in the House of Commons, in the gallery," which is rather superior to him downstairs uttering political ideology or substance, and she watching on with an abundance of interest and suspense. And she replies in a way that catches him unawares, because her aim is to also be in that House of Commons, battling for the rights of females, in her continued look at the franchise of women. It's a magical script from Rattigan's novel, that's to be sure.